In this video we're going to be removing the trim and the head lining so we can get behind the cab to insulate. Okay, so today we're going to be taking off the overhead cab shelves and trim so that we can get at the front of the cab to insulate. We are quite lucky this has been done from the factory, so maybe slightly different to your vans, but hopefully the idea will be the same. First of all, we've got these screws, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, and then there's 2 in the B pillar on each side, and we're just going to undo those. There's also a couple of foam filler strips that go in the sides, which you can just manhandle out. And then so get those screws out, and then finally there's some fir tree clips underneath. We'll pry those out. So you've got a trim removal set you bought from Amazon, and hopefully these will do the trick. We will use tape underneath this before we do any levering so that we don't mark any trim out. Once those screws and plastic fir trim come out, the middle bit of trim comes out quite easily. The next step is to remove all the shelf and the handles. The handles, these just prise out, and then you've got access to Allen head bolts. So do that both sides and remove the handles. Once the handles come off, you tack the sun visors. So again, it's just an Allen bolt and a couple of Allen bolts here. The inside sun visor bracket also has a fir tree clip on, so you need to give that a pull with the tool as well. You need to take out the lighting unit, squeeze at the top edge, and then it sort of folds out. And there's 2 connectors that need to be removed. The green one's got a small tab on in there which you pull, and the white one has a tab on the back you can squeeze and then pull out. The white one is a bit stiff. Word of warning, the entire back of the mirror is part of the circuit board, so don't use anything metal to prise. Now for the overhead cab shelf, there's a plastic trim that just prises out. We've got Allen keys. There's an Allen key in there, here, one below the mirror, and the same on the other side. So we'll remove those and see if this shelf drops out. With the mentioned bolts removed, the shelf does just come off. Bear in mind that there's a hook here and there's a hook on the front of the shelf here, so it sort of feels a bit trapped, but yeah, it's just a couple of just manhandling it to get it out. Don't force it, you sort of twist it and the shelf just drops out. The shelf is out. We can see there's a fir tree clip either side where the sun visors were. There's one centre middle, and then this bracket in the middle has 2 bolts going into it that need removing. I don't think this front panel needs removing, that's just there. With those bits removed, the head lining is literally just held on now with a bit of moulding around the rubber and this trim here. So it's just a case of peeling back this and manhandling out of this gap and here, and then hopefully the whole thing drops off. The headliner does come out with, from that position. So technically found is if you clear the A pillar and the bracket in the middle, that's the important because there's a catch on it, and then you sort of rotate the headliner forward, then it does rotate and come out clean, and then just comes out the side door. I just leaves the main shelf, which is still intact. In here there's a couple of nuts that need removing, and then just the standard bolts to go through into the bodywork. Okay, there are actually 3 nuts on the shelf inside, but once those came off and the 4 bolts, the whole thing just actually pulled forward or pulled rear and slid straight out. Interestingly, it just slid out, so it didn't actually require any leverage into here, so you can probably insulate in here as much as you can. I think it's a GPS unit up there, and we'll have to leave it in situ. But we reckon we can batten this now with a few battens and fill in with a combination of thermoline and Celotex, and sort of curve it back so it follows the roof profile, and then we'll sort of ply line and carpet that. So we reckon we're going to do it in sort of 3 stages. One is we're going to do the front bit, and then we're going to insulate the sides separately and then finish that off after the event. Once the shelf's back in, I'm not sure how we can do that otherwise. But taking it out, overall difficulty is actually quite low. It was fairly straightforward. The battens that are going to stick on the front need to be curved, which is a bit of a problem. And obviously you've got to get them to bond in whilst being curved without any strain being put on the bonding stuff. So we've cut some 25 by 38, we sort of slitted it down so we can bend it, screwed a couple of holes and just put nails in so these actually just pull out if need be, shaped it and just put some wood glue in and tie with garden twine. So that will mostly set, and then we're going to put some more ply on the back just to get the depth we want. But then we can actually bond it in place with a string in place and then just take the string out once the bonding is set after 24 hours or so. But it means we've got some bent battens that will be bonded without actually putting any twisting strain when they get released. A few more to do. With these battens and cuts, the bow strings are sort of keeping them in shape. They're now being bonded onto the van with stick saw, and we're then going to just use wood glue and layer 2 layers of 3mm ply on top. So that will help with the curve and also give us the depth we want, which is going to be 31. So it's 25 plus 3 plus 3. That'll help with the insulation that we want to put in underneath. Okay, about 4 days later after the last video, we've got the cab overhead section insulated. Under here we just put as much foam as we can and then some Dacron, and then this just as a vapor barrier. And you may have heard me say we're going to use Celotex between the battens. Confession time, it was a right balls up, to be honest. We couldn't get the Celotex to fit properly. It just made a huge mess, and then we took it out and put in some Dacron, and again that was awful. And then the finish on the ply was awful. So one of those times we just said to it and ripped it all out and decided to start again. So what we've actually bought is this stuff from Vandalize. It's 12mm thick closed cell foam. We've done 2 layers of that, sort of staggered down so we still have a gap at the bottom for the headlining to fit in, and that's all taped up. So that's now snug as a bug and much better than the original plans. So I would recommend getting the 12mm closed cell sticky back foam from the outset. Okay, a bit better than last time. That's the ply screwed up and all the screws into the battens and sealed off. So now it's just a case of spraying and applying carpet. Okay, and there's the carpet stuck on. Obviously needs a bit of trimming, but compared to how it was on version 1, we're really happy. Obviously you can still see some of the screw heads underneath. Didn't really have much choice because it's only 3mm ply, so we couldn't countersink it, it just wasn't strengthening the wood. But spraying in the van and actually just doing the middle line first and folding it over and then just doing one side at a time has actually worked really well. So we're not carpeting this bit, we'll do that slightly differently once we get the shelf in. So phew, that's 100 times better than it was last week. With the shelf back in, everything now seems to be as we'd hope. It's a lot neater than it was before. Obviously these corners are a bit awkward. So what I've made is a profiled bit of Celotex out of sort of 50mm Celotex and taped up. And what we can do with this is whack it down the side, and then we've made up another one out of 25mm Celotex and a bit of ply and carpet, and this will go next to it. So obviously you just need to clamp that up and give that a bash and clamp with a bit of glue in between, and that will give a sort of bang on finish on the corner. Obviously this end bit we need to finish off, but that's another job. But that will be the finish that you want. This gap will go when we just wedge it up, all being well, and you have to do the same on the other side. Okay, let's see how that goes. Well, that's the end of the nightmare job. The end bits are in place, the side pieces on the cab are in place, the cab's nicely curved, and the same on the other side with the end bit. The battens, don't worry about for now, that's for the ceiling for later, so the rest, which doesn't look finished, will be finished later. The rest of the cab now just needs putting back together again. We've dropped in some dash cam cables, and this is going to be covered up, so that's still insulated and going to be covered up by the liner. So all in all, that should be a tidy job once complete. It's just reassemble in reverse order to the start of the video. Just top tips, it's a bit of a job. Yeah, get out of the way as soon as you can. The curve isn't perfect. It actually goes out to the middle as well as curved, so that was a nightmare. And think about how you're going to do the end pieces. We're okay doing this for now because we know what's coming up next. They're all going to be covered up anyway. That's just basically keeping it all closed up with insulation. All I can do, guys, is wish you good luck with this job. It's a nightmare. Have fun. Bye.